Alright, just being honest with you guys, my favorite part of this adaptation is the way Joel meets Ellie. Perfect. Show could have ended right then and there. HBO has finally dropped the first episode of their Last of Us adaptation based off the popular video game. It was one hefty bombing episode at an hour and 20 minutes long. And I necessarily wasn't even planning on doing weekly videos talking about the episodes that drop every Sunday. But after watching that first episode, I have to get my thoughts out because that was one of the most well-adapted pieces of media in a long time. So hopefully you'll decide to join me here after every episode premieres this Sunday. There's going to be 9 episodes in total, but I do want to be upfront and honest with you guys. Yes, I have played the 2 games. I am a fan of this, but I'm not going to treat these videos like an Easter egg breakdown, looking at every tiny minuscule detail and going, that was exactly what they said in the video game. I want these to be more of a discussion of why I think this adaptation works so well, the performances they have here, some of the changes they're making from the game into this adaptation, and you as well. Leaving me your opinions down below, whether you're a fan of the Last of Us games or you're someone brand new checking this show out seeing what's the hype. Now you know. Please go ahead and leave it all down below. So, kicking things off here, just a little bit of my history with The Last of Us. I was not a day one player when the game came out back in 2013. I got into The Last of Us during the era where there was leaks coming out about Last of Us Part 2. And also, yes, side note, even though I've played the 2 games, I know where the story is headed. I'm not going to be talking about spoilers because I want people new to this world to also be looking forward to what they're about to do and how they're going to break your freaking heart, man. But maybe some of you who were online at that time remember The Last of Us Part 2 leaks and people freaking out that they were going to ruin one of the best video games ever made. I was like, really? It's that good? Let me play the first game, see what the hype is, and then if I'll get pissed off playing the second game. And yeah, not only was that first game amazing and I should have played it a long time ago instead of prejudging it like it was just another type of zombie apocalypse kind of game, and The Last of Us Part 2 broke my heart in so many ways, left me with so many conflicting emotions. I can't wait till they adapt that. Bringing that back here though to the pilot episode, again, they've just nailed it. So here we start off with an opening in 1969 where we have a couple of scientists talking about the possible pandemic future of the world and what we should worry about. This was honestly a clever way to start out the show because it gives a good laying of the groundwork of what exactly the virus is in the Last of Us world. I love how they talk about the cordyceps virus and its real world inspiration because I think maybe some of us have seen that video of a snail or some sort of insect that gets taken over by this fungus, and the way they try to ground that with some climate change, the world getting warmer, even just as timely as it is with the way we just handled a pandemic as a society. It's one of the great things that separate the show from the video game, because even if you play the first Last of Us video game, you might not entirely understand the virus itself. You'll know it's kind of like a fungal infection type thing, but unless you really like take the time to like look at the details of the game, pick up a newspaper, read some articles, you won't get the full story of what exactly this virus is. But with the show, they're able to explain it to you right off the bat. From there, the show jumps us into 2003, kind of changing up the setting from the video game. I believe the virus started in 2013 there. I think it's a minor change that is able to work with the game. I know there's some details now that they can't do in the future, like there's a certain song that Joel will eventually sing that is now not possible because it's a song that came out in like 2010 or 2011, which now they won't be releasing unless they got studios in the apocalypse. But Pedro Pascal here is perfectly embodying Joel. He's got his mannerisms down, his rough, grizzled personality with those slight moments of charm and humor that I've always loved about Joel. Really, they could have not done any better in the casting department for Joel here. I'm also liking Tommy. Gabriel Luna is doing a good job. I can't wait to see more of him as the show progresses. But then a big chunk of the first half of the episode is dedicated to Joel's daughter, Sarah. If you played the games, you knew what was going to be coming towards the middle half of this episode. I was not ready for it, but I think even if you were someone who played the games and knew Sarah's fate in the first episode, the show managed to do things that kind of expanded further on her personality, her love of her father, that just made that scene so much more impactful. The added stuff of seeing her go to town, take money from her father to fix his watch, something that he would never really take the time to do, small hints of the world just starting to burn down. I really love the little things they're adding on here that expand the story further. I'm also getting a really big kick of just how many lines from the actual game they're taking word for word and just putting them into the show.
Where did you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Where'd you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
They do it so much more throughout this first episode, and I'm sure it's going to continue on throughout the rest of the season. But getting to the moment where Sarah encounters one of the first infected, her neighbor that was in a wheelchair, I am loving this new change that they've added to the cordyceps. Because you might have heard that they've made some changes from the games. They're getting rid of the spore effect and how it's kind of an airborne virus and that you need to wear gas masks sometimes in certain areas. That really was pissing off fans, and they were immediately just wanting to hate this show without seeing what they were trying to give you first. And this is terrifying. Those little tentacles or just whatever that is sticking out of the mouth from the infected was horrifying. We live in an age now where zombie movies, zombie TV shows are a dime a dozen. We've seen almost every cliche under the book. And I think The Last of Us here is really showing how it could stand apart from that stuff. Now, again, I know they're not called zombies. I'm just saying in general, that type of content. These first stage infected that we got to see were terrifying. And they're only going to get more terrifying. I can't wait till we see clickers and some bloaters in here. I also want to praise its show in its camera work. Sometimes I think it's really hard to copy the camera angles that you see in a video game because it comes off like a video game, mainly because a lot of the time it's through a POV and you see hands in front of you and then holding stuff up. Sometimes shots in a video game just can't translate to media without it looking goofy, but the shots here of Joel and Tommy driving in their truck, looking at the surrounding town going into flames, those camera angles are directly pulled from the games and they work so beautifully in live action. Once we get past the heartbreaking death of Joel and his daughter that I'm telling you, I knew it was coming, I saw it, but it's still just hit you in the feels. They did that so well. We get to another expanded scene here that they added on that I was kind of like, what was the point of this? But by the end of the episode, I thought this was so brilliant. We see a little kid that's just wandering about in the free roam area away from the closed off town here. They take him in, but they have him strapped. They're testing to see if this kid is infected, whether they need to place him in a home or they need to make him one of the burning bodies. And it turns out the kid was infected. They tested him and he came back red. And I didn't realize what this was until the end of the episode. It's something smart that the show was letting you know that there's a lot more people like Ellie out there. Ellie, as you see by the end of the episode, is immune. She was bitten once before, which I can't wait till we see the episode on that backstory. We got a little hint of what's to come whenever Marlene asked her about Riley, and Ellie's face just turned kind of ghostly.
Was Riley a terrorist?
But that's something I always thought about when playing The Last of Us is like, why is Ellie the only one immune? Where are some other immune people? She can't be the only one out there. And this kid here is probably one of the many hundred people around the world that end up getting killed off just because they test positive for the virus. They could be infected, but they're not going to be turning into one of the infected. So I kind of like how the show made it here that Ellie isn't like a 1 in a million phenomenon. There is others out there, but they're making the dumb mistake of killing them before realizing what they have. That's why we get to see Ellie, who's chained up in a room for what sounds like a couple of days because they're testing out to see if she really is immune and it's not going to turn into one of the infected any day. I also want to praise its show and how well it's being paced right now. Some things they're letting us kind of live in the moment, breathe into that, and then other things they kind of breeze us by or jump us into the next scene. Like, I'm happy this episode was an hour and 20 minutes long, but I'm also happy they knew where to give that time to the show. Like where we got to see the aftermath of the faulty car battery being sold to Marlene and then those people just ending up dead, and even Marlene being shot in the exact same spot she was shot in the video game. Bringing me to the finale of the episode where Joel, Therese, and Ellie are heading out away from the compound, going out into this apocalyptic wasteland, and they encounter the man Joel was selling drugs to earlier. This right here I thought was one extremely powerful moment they added on into the show. Maybe it was in the video game. Like I said, I played it like 3 years ago, so I do have a good memory of it, but some details are vague. That's why I don't want to make this a super detailed breakdown of every Easter egg, because I don't have that kind of memory. But the way they built the tension of the guy about to test them to see if they're infected, leading up to Ellie where she's holding up a knife, she sticks him in the leg, and it puts Joel in that exact same position he was when his daughter Sarah was about to be shot at by an armed man. And you can just feel the way the show is telling you Joel has thought about this moment for the last 20 years. He's replayed it every night. What would I have done differently to save my daughter Sarah? And we get to see exactly what Joel would have done differently differently and take out all that anger he's had built up into what I think killed this man. You also pair that up with the beautiful cinematography and back shots of Ellie witnessing what Joel is doing for her protection. In that moment, I knew Ellie now 100% trusts Joel and is gonna stay by his side no matter what. So quickly now the show is able to build up that relationship and that connection with Joel and Ellie. I'm loving this, man. The video game curse has been broken for a while, but The Last of Us is another great adaptation. I can't wait to see the next following episodes. Hopefully you guys will come back every Sunday so we can talk about the next episode, but leave me your thoughts down below, your favorite moments, some of the changes you like that they've made. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.